let's talk about London. London, as we learned in the 2021 census, is only 37% English. And most of those will be rather transient people who move to London in their 20s and leave in their 30s to make some money, get some experience. And there's a young lady on the internet called Jess Gill. I'd like to just give her a shout out because she goes out and talks to these English people, and it turns out that they are basically retarded. Like every single one of them has had their brain turned to mush. Just literally you can see it dribbling out of their ears as she asks them the most rudimentary of questions. She's not pushing them hard. She's not like, destroying them. She's allowing them to destroy themselves. And I thought we'd give it a bit of a watch because it's very, very amusing.
The most intelligent Londoners, ladies and gents.
Yes, in fact, and that's exactly it, actually. A lot of them are quite intelligent, and you can see how this has led them to the positions that they've held, which are really, really stupid. But before we begin, if you want to support us, go to lotus.com, sign up and watch my contemplations with Josh, The Limitations of Science. Finally get to put some anti-science action into practice. Destroy science with Josh. Josh being a scientist.
Destroying science with facts and logic,
eh?
It
was brilliant, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was absolutely... Well, no, you can, actually.
Well, destroy it with feels and reals as well.
Well, because most of science, a lot of science is not factual or logical, actually. A lot of it's agenda-driven and ideological.
Yeah.
So it was quite fun.
Made by humans.
Yeah, exactly, because it's done by humans. And so the standards that science sets for itself are kind of unreachable and doomed to fail. Anyway, go and enjoy that. I enjoyed that. So let's begin with Jess's first question to random English Londoners. What are men good for? They're good for anything?
Civilization.
You'd think.
Yeah.
I mean, they only make sure that the sewers keep working.
I mean, everything.
And the lights are on.
It's really all infrastructure.
Yeah.
Is there a single infrastructure project that's mostly run by women?
Mostly farmers producing your food. Like, no, there's no infrastructure that's run by women. Men build every building that you see in these clips. That's just fact. Like I looked this up a while ago. It's something like 97% of the construction industry is male, and I bet that 3% are mostly in administrative positions.
So water, power, roads,
food,
building,
shelter, electricity. Literally anything you think is a common good in your life was built by a man. I mean, it's not like secret. This is well known, but let's watch.
What are straight white men good for?
Straight white men?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
What are straight white men good for?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I don't know.
Do you think straight white men are important?
No.
We're utter fucking trash.
What are straight white men good for?
Being rude and making you feel uncomfortable.
Do you think they're important?
No.
So what would you say they're good for? What do you think they're good for in society?
If they give them their bank card, that's pretty good.
Do you think that the system is against anyone who isn't a straight white male?
I mean, I would say it's like a system based on like, heteronormative hegemony and like binary system.
Okay, so in that clip, there were a lot of non-English people. I didn't realise that first one, but in the other ones, there are lots of English people.
But I love how intelligent that is. All of them are so disconnected from any part of humanity.
Yes.
Like, this is one of the things I like about going to like a place like Luhansk or something where it's all falling apart and is getting there, is you remind yourself of what really matters.
Yes.
Like when you live just in London, where you can just get anything for money.
That someone else has produced and transported to you.
You don't have to think about any of the steps that got to where you are. You just buy it, move on. You never think about it. You become deluded.
Straight white men, basically scum, aren't they?
Yeah.
Basically disgusting. Yeah. They make me uncomfortable. Yeah.
That's all it is. Okay.
Literally the untouchables. Okay. So what about conservatives, Callum? What do you think their opinions on conservatives are?
Same.
Yeah. What's the difference between a conservative and a straight white man? The Venn diagram is harmonizing. Let's watch.
What does it mean to be a conservative?
That you like to make sure that the rich have money and the poor don't, and that you don't care about the working class people.
There's a big stigma of like disliking poor people, wanting to cut benefits, kind of helping the rich get richer and helping the poor get poorer.
What does it mean to be a conservative?
Tory.
Rich and negligent.
Old. Rich and old. Yeah, same.
Do you think the Conservatives are good people?
No, not at all. They have their own like ideals about the world, and they're not really in tune with like what the people need. They're not looking at what the people need.
Conservatives, aren't they just evil? Don't they just sit there?
Help the poor get poorer.
Well, I mean, the poor have, say, got, a very small amount of money. It's kind of like the
Well, I'll
sheriff.
help you with that.
Think Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, the cartoon, the Disney version. So you see, they've got a penny left, I better take that. That's right, I'm a Conservative.
Just correct you, that is in Reading. That's not in London. There.
Was that Reading?
Yeah, I recognise it because I used to live there.
Sorry, Jess gets about.
But it's
it all looks the same. I couldn't tell that it wasn't London, which is a real sad indictment of Reading. But isn't that just amazing? Conservatives, aren't they just people who go around being as evil as possible? As evil as they can be to make as many people suffer. Yeah, that's what Conservatives are like.
Now moving on with my life.
Yeah. It's like, dude, you don't think that. Like, nobody really thinks that. If you really thought that.
I don't know. I mean, when you talk of you go and look at what the average German thought of the Jews in the time of the 1930s and 40s.
They do have a very similar opinion, actually.
That's what I mean. Like state propaganda, people think things and don't know why they think it because they hear someone else say it, and then they think that thing until someone else says a thing that they now think. They don't actually think about the statement. It's why you get people who will tell you that they support X, Y, or Z cause, and you ask them why, and they've got nada.
Yeah.
They've just been told to either by the state or the TV or whatever else.
But it's interesting that they described Conservatives in the same way that a 1930s Nazi might describe Jews. Well, they just want the rich to get richer and the poor to get poorer. They're here to exploit us Germans, aren't they? So yeah, there's an evil parasite on top of society. That's what a conservative is.
I really like the interviews like this where it's usually a guy and it'll be talking to women and it'll be something like name 3 countries. And they'll be like London, Asia.
Africa. Yeah.
You don't correct them. You just go, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's this one guy going, he literally just agrees with everything they say.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's comedy gold. Speaking of comedy gold, what do you think their opinion on being a woman is, Callum? The W question, the ultimate, the nuclear question, the question that ruins careers. Let's watch.
So, how would you define what a woman is?
I think that's a very difficult question.
Yeah, I think gender is a social construct. It's, I think especially in this day and age, it's something that it's like, possibly, I don't actually.
No, I think the idea of womanhood and people who are born in female bodies or with female genitalia, it's like you have this experience growing up, especially with childhood and like being a teenager, of this like woman experience, but that doesn't. It may make you different to people that have not been born, that weren't born that weren't like assigned female at birth. Like you may have a different experience to those women, and they may have different experiences to you. But I think it's not a very good explanation because defining what a woman is, I think, is very difficult.
Yeah.
Because you may on the outside to a random person look like a woman and be a woman, but may not feel like a woman yourself, or be the opposite.
How would you define what a woman is?
Oh, that is
Woman.
a tricky question.
Someone with a vagina.
Yeah, someone with a vagina. I don't know.
No, not in every sense, obviously,
No.
because obviously
No,
that would
that is very
exclude,
true,
like,
actually.
yeah, I'm joking. Like, obviously, just feminine energy. Because
Yeah.
obviously that then includes, like, trans women and then, like...
Yeah,
all
everything in
sorts of-
between.
yeah.
So, what does feminine energy entail?
It's just an aura, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't. It's hard to explain it. I don't know.
I think it's just a being, isn't it? Like how you present yourself, and I think it can be different to everyone, really. I think my feminine energy might be a little bit different to hers, different to yours, different to anyone's.
This is actually a great clip to explain thinking as a concept. Because you can see there's a few there. I mean, like the girl on the right at the start, right? She clearly has been told a thing. She's never thought it. She's never actually reasoned it. She's been told a thing, which is what her answer was, which was, trans nonsense.
Well,
and then she started to think for the first time ever
Does that
about
make
what
sense?
she's been told and went,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, I tell you, there were some good answers. I mean, the someone with a vagina, that's a good start.
But then you could see that person realised that's
Hang on.
politically incorrect.
Yeah, that's a bit turfy. I can't say that. And then the feminine energy. I mean, I would have said that Dan Guthrie had feminine energy, just whining.
Yeah,
just total feminine energy. So he's a woman now. Bad luck, Dan. Change your pronouns. But the other one, which was someone who has had the experience of a woman. So that's an interesting one because that's also a very turfy definition. Because of course, men haven't had the experience of a woman.
Really?
Well, yeah.
People we're under no threat of female genital mutilation.
Yeah, they've not had the experience of a woman socially, and so if they transition, they still can't be women because they haven't had the experience of a woman. So it's still quite a turfy answer. Quite like it. It's not an essential answer. That's the problem, though. You know, it's kind of a platonic answer. It's like, well, someone who has breasts, and you know, it's like, yeah, behold, a woman. But anyway, and then the next one. Well, I do like that this is something that just keeps cropping up. Another one. What does it mean to be a woman? To watch.
What does it mean to be non-binary?
I think it's where they don't identify as a male or female.
So what does it mean to be trans?
It's where they don't conform to the gender that they were born with, and that they don't feel comfortable within their own body.
And what does it mean to be a woman?
What does it mean to be a woman? To be a leader of the world and to be an inspiration to the future generations of young women and trans ladies.
Oh, no.
Trans ladies?
But, oh God, I don't know. But I better not say something bad. Oh, they're just gods. They're just strident titans who walk among us, leading the way. Please don't whip me. How pathetic was that?
I love how it's a perfect setup as well of police define woke nonsense, and they can do it perfectly. Because it's the party dogma.
Yep.
Everyone knows how to say about
Yep.
Party of Lenin is fantastic.
Yep.
But then you ask them as to why.
Yep.
You get to a question of a contradiction. What's a woman? Crap. What happened in Katyn?
I've never had it defined for me. How would I know?
Because again, these people don't think.
But
they're told things, and that's what they think they think.
Yeah, but what I love is the straight white man's just like, oh God. I better not say something insulting. I better say, oh, they're just leaders. It's like, look, okay, that actually... Right, so anyone who's a leader is a woman now?
Yeah. Anyone who's not a leader is not a woman.
Vladimir Putin, the chief woman of Russia. Which it amuses me greatly. Prince of Saudi prince.
Yeah, woman. Leader of the Taliban, woman.
Al-Baghdadi, woman.
Al-Bashir, Al-Bashar, woman.
Pinochet, woman.
Hitler, a woman.
Genghis Khan.
The greatest woman who ever lived.
Yeah, exactly.
He led the most part of the world.
So. Exactly, he's the biggest woman you've ever met.
Oh.
Like, it's so funny. It's so good. Right, okay, let's watch the next one.
What does gender mean to you?
I'm actually really not sure. I'm still kind of figuring it out. But I think it's like self-expression and like how you identify with yourself, really.
So how would you define what gender is?
I just think it's more of like a personal feeling. I think you can't really define it because gender is just such a social construct and you just can't really, it's more of like what you just feel.
So what do you guys identify as?
I identify as a girl, but I completely respect anybody who identifies as anything other than that, and I think anyone should be able to identify as anything they want.
How do you know that you identify as a girl? What makes you think you're a girl?
I just feel quite comfortable with that label, but I think that it could be anything else if I found out later on.
So what do you guys identify as?
Non-binary, I think. I'm not really sure.
Cis male.
What age do you think you know your gender identity?
It really depends on the person, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the person. Because I mean, I've known since forever because I've just been comfortable being cis male.
Yeah, and I'm almost 20 and I still don't really know.
So, what age do you think you can determine what gender identity you identify as?
Some people know very young. I don't think there's a limit to where you are. Because some people know from so young.
Yeah.
The LGBTQ plus charity Stonewall recently published an article that said someone at the age of 4 can understand their gender identity. What do you think about that? Do you think 4's too young?
I think that might be the parents pushing it a little bit because, I mean, when a kid's younger, they can make walls blue and give them blue balloons or make them yellow or have a boy with pink walls.
At what age do you think you know your gender identity?
I think it can differs between each person. It's preferable for whatever.
So the LGBTQ plus charity Stonewall recently tweeted that a 4-year-old can determine their gender identity. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah. I think somebody can feel like a certain way about themselves from a very early age. Yeah.
What I love about all of these clips is that it just shows that these, and it's mostly the young women as well. Like the men are just like, oh God, I don't want to get in trouble. But the women, like that 20-year-old woman, obviously a woman, but I don't know what my gender. Of course you do.
I love that 'cause she's there with clearly her boyfriend.
Yes.
And she's like, well, you might be gay, mate.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
Exactly. He's like, I'm a man. It's like, oh, what if you're a man? You're gay. You don't know. But you're both gay. It's so stupid. Everyone, but these young women are kind of walking around in this intellectual haze. They're like, I don't know about anything around me. I'm just so unsure. Who knows? It's like, I can't even imagine.
But that's what you're raised with in the West.
Yeah, I can't even imagine living in this kind of intellectual fog where you're just constantly moving through things you don't understand.
But the most like understood concepts, as has been pointed out, is woke terminology.
Yeah.
So the fact that the guy could use cis, the fact that the guy earlier could define what non-binary was and non-conforming, but any other things that actually matter instead of
Real
party
things.
doctrine.
Real things.
Yeah. It's like going to Yugoslavia and been talking to the youth, and they can all perfectly recite Lenin and Marx's works and how that relates to the proletariat being oppressed in the West. And you ask them about, so how does something become profitable?
Mm.
They just will stare at you. What do you mean? How do you start a business? What?
Why is capitalism succeeding? In fact, speaking of the West, and I'm glad you brought it up, why don't we ask them what's good about Britain?
Do we have to?
Yes.
Because
What is British culture?
Racism and tea. I love London because it's so diverse.
Multicultural
society,
everywhere you go. Which hopefully is increasing.
I'm very proud of this country because it is so diverse and accepting.
Possibly the fact that it's multicultural is helping certainly in places like London.
again, none of those people actually think that. They've been told to think it, and now they think it.
What's good about Britain? Oh, the foreigners.
But you can tell, like, that's obviously state propaganda. That is what our state puts out to everyone constantly. And those individuals there, they're
It's
not
not just the state. Think about, like, EastEnders. Think about the adverts. Everything is anti-Britain.
I see that as, organs of the state as well,
Well,
frankly.
yeah,
but you see these people here. None of them are thinking people.
Yeah.
They've been told these things, and now they think it, and that is it. That is all we're witnessing.
What's Britain? Racism and tea?
I watch the BBC,
I would take that.
and they keep saying about how Britain is racist. So what do you think of as Britain? Racism and tea.
Well, that's the point, isn't it?
What's great about Britain? Well, the BBC keeps telling me that multiculturalism's good, and it's increasing, and that's a good thing.
Let's hope it's increasing. Let's hope the rest of Britain becomes like London, and the rest of the English become like us. Because aren't we such a fine example?
Unthinking individuals. Just not capable of it by the looks of it.
Yeah, literally in a fog of nonsense, because the sort of foundations that they would build a rational worldview on have been kicked out from under them. I can't say what a woman is. I can't say what my country is. And so I can't form an opinion that I can hold to.
I used to watch interviews of people like what should be taught in schools.
Hmm.
I used to see people always, the occasional person will mention, critical thinking is more important than any of these subjects that you might propose. And I never quite understood that concept until...
Now you do.
Yeah.
Now you do.
So that's way more important to actually running the society.
Jess also did a couple of interviews with people about the recent kerfuffle with the crazed Islamists and a slightly scuffed Quran by an autistic child.
Self-preservation kicks in?
Yeah, well, yes, kind of. Very much party apparatchiks here. But this was such a preposterous scenario. Even an insane person like Ash Sarkar was like, well, look, we shouldn't really be persecuting a 14-year-old. Even she was like, yeah, no, I'm not on board with this. And I'm a Muslim who celebrates the Londonification of Britain.
Well, that's where you're going to get Ash. That's not why you're complaining.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she was like, who could think that? It's like, Ash, you claim to be a Muslim. You must know that in Pakistan and Bangladesh, they literally lynch people over this.
Well, it's funny, actually, because, of course, the Quran isn't firstly a book. It was oral tradition.
Well, it's a divine revelation.
Sure, but one of the funny things is, as David pointed out earlier on Twitter, if you go to the Hajj around the and then look in the sewers after the Hajj is ended, The Saudi authorities actually do have to go out and dig Qurans, piles of them, out of the sewers, because there's too many.
Don't tell the Pakistani community in Wakefield. They'll be very angry at the Muslims in Mecca.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the question is, do we need to respect religion? Is it compatible with tolerance and freedom of expression, as if those things matter?
Depends if the religion has any balls.
That's exactly right. Let's watch.
Freedom of expression or religious tolerance?
Freedom of expression? Why? So, firstly, there's no God. So anything religious, it's not. It's basically based on something thousands upon thousands of years ago. We have grown as a society so much since then.
Recently, a student damaged a Quran and they got suspended by their school. Do you think that that was the right action to take by the school?
Yeah, no, that was right. We still need to respect other people's religions.
There's no God, but we need to respect
so long as we're tolerant. Only once a religion becomes hateful, etc., should it then become a problem.
Do you not think that might go against freedom of expression, though?
No, I mean, I'm religious, but I'm also queer, and my freedom of expression is more important to me than, orthodox values. So, I've kept with my religion, but I've kept with the freedom of expression for myself and for others, that people should live the lives that they basically want to live.
But if a student wants to damage a Quran, do you not think they should have the right to do it?
No, because it's unnecessarily and disrespectful.
They should have the right to live the life they live, but not be able to do...
But she began being as disrespectful as she could do to religious people generally. There's no God, ha. Okay, but now we're not allowed to damage Qurans. And I'm religious, actually, myself.
I'm queer, but I respect Islam. Rooftop.
But you can see just the political dogma, right? You know what she believes. She obviously believes. She doesn't care about any of this. But of course, right, Islam, right? That's got a special place in the progressive hierarchy because you can't do anything about that.
Yeah, this has a special mix, doesn't it? Because not only are they just thinking they think a thing and, again, saying what they've been told to say, but also there's an element of fear.
And contradiction.
No,
yes, of course you should have religious freedom of expression, but not against Islam.
But that contradiction is baked into the state propaganda.
Yeah,
we are endlessly told in the West that, we're better because we have freedom of expression and blah, 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 and freedom of speech. But then we're told, don't blaspheme.
Yes.
But only against these guys.
Yes. And so when she has to explain it, it sounds ridiculous and contradictory and embarrassing. And this
it's kind of fun, actually, because we're not interacting with human beings. We're acting with NPCs of the state. So what does the state believe today?
It's seeing how the code crashes right in front of your eyes. Jess has done a great job here, actually, by not being confrontational and challenging, just asking them, so can you explain your position? And of course they can't. This is probably my favourite because this chap's probably some student somewhere. He's an intelligent chap, and yet he's also an NPC. Let's watch.
What do you think is more important, religious tolerance or freedom of expression?
I'd personally say freedom of expression. I think it's very important to be tolerant, but I think ultimately, I don't know, the mark of a free society is what you're able to say, and I feel like the right to kind of offend someone is kind of important because it's a sign that we live in a free society, ultimately, even if it can make us uncomfortable at times.
So do you think I should have the right to burn a Bible, for example, if I wanted to?
I think so. I personally think that, I mean, I wouldn't personally, I'm not a religious, but I wouldn't personally think that's a great thing to do, but I think that still it's, a right you have in terms of expressing your political views, your kind of, I guess, anti-religious views in that case, in a free society. So yeah, I guess so.
So I don't know if you've heard of this case, but a Year 10 student recently got suspended from school after damaging a Quran. Do you think that was the right move from the school's part?
I do, because I don't think that's damaging that person's free speech. I think there's a confusion between free speech being viewed as, someone literally being suppressed from what they're being able to speak out, and someone being, punished for that action. It's not like they're taking legal action against them. It's a school, it's an institution, and it's quite a very, very culturally insensitive thing to do. So I think that that's not damaging that person's free speech, but I think it's correct to show that person that's very culturally insensitive and in a way racist, to be honest.
But if a governmental institution is basically punishing a student for exercising their way to express themselves, do you not think that might be damaging their freedom of speech?
It's an interesting question. I think it's not one where necessarily there's a kind of completely black and white answer. I think nuance is important, and I think that is a fairly inflammatory thing to do. But yeah, I guess to me that's the thing. There's a difference between suppression and accountability. I think it's okay to hold people accountable to a degree for things that are culturally insensitive.
Accountable.
Yeah, it's accountability, mate.
It's just death threats against a 14-year-old. That's accountability. It's part of free speech.
Oh, why do the Muslims hate the West? Oh, it's because they don't respect you.
Yeah.
How could they possibly respect the West? Look at it.
But look at it. It's so good. The duality of his thoughts here. It's so good. It's like, but a Bible, yeah, of course, you got free speech. That might hurt some feelings, but that's fine. But what about Quran? Well, I mean, no, he went too far. We need to be sensitive to religious feelings. We've got to respect them. And it's like,
but you're right. There was not even a moment where I could see him go, crap, self-preservation kicked
exactly.
in, and he was like, I'm going to say this because I want to preserve myself.
Yep.
It was instead that was his legitimate, what is in his head, which again he didn't think. No. It's obviously been put there.
And now he's got to try and rationalize it. So he's just like blah 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 blah, and it's just like, yeah, okay. So you're caught in a contradiction, and and it was well, I mean, that's an interesting question. I think accountability is really accountability. Threatening 14-year-olds, just accountability, bro. It's accountability. So anyway, well done to Jess for doing such a fantastic job with these absolute NPCs.
Imagine pulling out your phone and just showing like an ISIS crucifixion. They'd be like, what do you think of this? Accountability.
Well, I posted this on Twitter because like it seems like every couple of months there's a lynching in Pakistan because someone is accused of desecrating the Quran. And this guy's like, well, I mean, it's accountability. You don't want to offend religious sensibilities, do you? And that's all he could say to that. And he knows it, actually, and I think he's kind of embarrassed by his answer. But I mean, that's what you get when you be a bloody NPC, isn't it? But anyway, good job, Jess. Really good stuff.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this episode on the limitations of science. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.